and gold. Whoa, whoa. This is Tubbs at the Club for the Vandals of Idaho.
Welcome back, Tribe from the North, Brave, and Bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and your Vandal affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Hammond, and joined with me today we have Alex, the Boatman. How are you, Alex?
Football is saved. Ed Woodward's out at Manchester United. Chris, I have never been a happier day in my life. It's 420. Who cares? It's all about football being saved. But when I say football, I mean soccer for all you weird Americans out there.
Yeah, and my team as well is experiencing some very important changes as well. Coys. Also joined by the professor, Brian Marr. So how the hell are you, Brian?
I'm doing fantastic. I already got my soccer news from Boatman. Dallas is going to give me the hockey shit that I will not get anywhere else. So I'm doing as good as I'm going to be doing.
And the producer running the show from the shadows, producer Dammer. How are you?
My Anaheim Ducks are currently getting ripped, so it's great. I hate everything.
Well, I think one key thing to get into, guys, before we do the ad read to get in around the bar is, like, we're finally here. I mean, it's funny. We're, like, prepping. We still got a couple episodes. Like you guys know, we always run through May. We will be going bi-weekly, although plan to have one out next Thursday, so there'll be 3 more episodes after this. But we made it. I mean, we went through doing all the positions previews twice. We went through basically having the what the heck is this podcast going to do with no sports. Ended up having great interviews with people like David Vabora, Johnny Ballgame, Kristen Armstrong, Eric Heisaw, Rob Akey. I mean, the list goes on and on. I know it already sucks I left people off. But, man, we really evolved. But, yeah, here we are, and we're, like, sitting here. We're like, all right, football is over. But yet we're kind of getting to like our late summer where usually we'd be telling you guys like, all right, last little bit of preview before we just go, until first Thursday after 4th of July. But we made it. Quick reflections before we get into Around the Bar on just like, what a freaking year for the podcast. And we added a new personality this year in Dallas Hammer. So early round of applause for Dallas and all that he brought to the show. But I mean, guys, takes, what was this podcast year like for you guys? I know we're not over, but like basically last live show, so it's kind of like over because I doubt all 4 of us are on a show for any of the last 3, but maybe.
I can say that counting doing the basketball instant reaction episodes, which I'm really happy we picked up the instant reaction episodes after the COVID time of every week being like, what the hell are we going to talk about, guys? The shows just started to feel so easy when there were games. But I feel like I have truly gone through, whether you call it the afterlife, hell, whatever. When you go through basketball instant reactions to the roller coaster we're going to talk about this season, I feel like worst case scenario, we're through something that it's going to be hard to ever have a back-to-back seasons like this repeat. So it feels kind of good.
Yeah. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, what a year. A lot of great interviews we had. Ours with Scott Green was awesome. We did that one morning, Chris. That was a good one. Probably one of my favorites, and I always love David Vabora as well. Just makes me want to run through a brick wall every time I talk to that guy. But shoot, we plugged in a lot of content that we were worrisome we didn't have, and I think we have more content we want to deliver to you guys. And now we got a really short summer to try and do so. Maybe some awesome interviews. Who knows? Maybe a certain retiring Idaho punter or kicker we might have on soon. We'll find out. But it's been a good year to podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah, Dallas, what were your kind of takes on the year?
I'm really excited for just next season. I know we tried out the live thing from the Corner Club, popped that Corner Club cherry, and it didn't go super well, but I'm excited, hopefully looking forward to next season, doing a live show maybe at the new basketball arena for a women's game because nobody gives a shit about the men. That's what I'm looking forward to. We got some of those weird bumps out of the way this season, and hopefully we're just going to be even better next.
Yeah, we tried a lot of crazy, different stuff this year, and I feel like for the most part, it all stuck. I can't think of a huge failure we had, but it is crazy because, like you brought up, like we started doing these interviews and we really started to get in the role of it as like things got going on, and then like we were hit with the basketball season, like, oh, this is a sports podcast, and then football, and then like now we're sitting here and we're like, oh, well, we got 3 weeks. Let's try to maybe slide in some guys. Alex hinted at somebody. We have a bunch of people have suggested that we've been in contact with, but we only got 3 episodes. We're probably not going to get to everybody. And then we're going to start by football. So it's kind of going to be like a whole year until we really start doing interviews again, because that'll probably happen like after basketball season. So like February. So basically March through April is probably going to be like interview and then like a position preview. So it's just going to be so weird to see how the podcast goes going forward. We have a lot of stuff coming. But with that, I think everybody out there has a lot more for you sneakerheads questions than answers. Allen Iverson, the questions. Anyways, getting into it. Ain't nothing like cracking a Montucky cold snack. Ain't nothing like cracking a Montucky cold snack. An ultra refreshing light beer born in majestic Big Sky country. The best part is when you crack a snack, you're giving back. Montucky Cold Snacks donates 8% of profits back to local causes, even right here in Idaho. Supporting organizations like the CW Hogs and the Idaho Food Bank. Yeehaw! That's freaking awesome. Montucky Cold Snacks, a Latin American lager for pow pow rippers, gator wranglers, pony riders, and badass do-gooders. Visit MontuckyColdSnacks.com today to find out how to get some snacks. All right, guys. I mean, one freaking awesome sponsor. We don't ask you guys to do this much, but if you could, maybe just plug them on social media. Be like, we love Tubbs and Montucky. They're an awesome pair, because we're also getting into, another season. So any love you can throw Montucky from us, we would appreciate it. Around the bar. Where do we want to start with this? Brian, you've been better at integrating these #AskTubbs.
I think we have to start with the story of closing the book on the spring season. Which, listeners, if you just missed the last couple weeks, Idaho closed out 2-4. We're riding a 3-game losing streak. We lost no game by more than 10 points. Every game was competitive. 2-4, obviously not where we wanted to be. But to start off the discussion, Chris, I'm going to go to #AskTubbs from Nick Marv Stutz, a.k.a. Nick Stutzman. And his question, 3-3 or 2-4, 2-4 so we finished, is a ways away from the projections I remember hearing before the season started. What's the sentiment around that? Not surprised due to COVID issues surrounding the season, or disappointment? And just before we throw it to anyone, the thing he's referencing, our preseason predictions were pretty dang optimistic. This is just from our episode before our week 1 game against Eastern. Chris and Martin picked Idaho to go 6-0. Boatman picked Idaho to go 5-1. Our one loss coming to Eastern the second game. Dallas and I both picked Idaho to go 4-2. I picked us to get swept by Eastern. Dallas picked us losing UC Davis and losing the second Eastern game. But it really doesn't matter how you slice it. All of us were pretty dang off. So I guess Boatman, maybe we'll start with you, man. We were pretty high, thought we were looking at a fringe playoff team, and that's not what we saw.
Mute.
I did it already. Well, and there it is. At the end of the day, we all do it at some point today. I would bet $20 on it. At the end of the day, there's only one stat that matters, just the win and loss column. I'm going to try and paint a prettier picture. Like Brian said, we were competitive in all games. We defeated Eastern first game in the Dome. Second game, when we played UC Davis, we were ahead until the fourth quarter, and we were missing 8 starters due to COVID. That was not a great game to play in hindsight. Southern Utah, we played 2 backup quarterbacks and still won. Idaho State, if you remember preseason, I did actually pick that to be Idaho's trap game in a really weird way. I knew it was going to be kind of a little closer than it thought. But again, we played our third-string quarterback that for most of that game. Didn't turn out so well. Eastern, we put in a whole new quarterback system that no one knew existed until Monday of that week, right? And then NAU, I didn't really get I knew we were playing two quarterbacks when we recorded that Tuesday, and I wasn't so hot on it. I'm just never hot on two quarterback system. If you guys remember the last year we played two quarterbacks quite a bit of the year, and it was tough to watch sometimes. So I flashed back to that immediately. And I didn't I predict we were going to lose that game? Yeah, I had a feeling we were going to lose that game. I knew it was coming. So yeah, we projected higher, but we at the end of the day, the win losses say we were far off. However, if you watch each game and you watch how close each game was, a couple different results. At Idaho State, they go that one goes different. At Cheney, we score there at the end, right? We are looking at a French playoff team. That's just the reality of it. So it's hard to. I don't know how far off we are, but when you play 4 quarterbacks in 6 games, good luck going 4-2 or higher. So it's tough. It's tough. I'm trying to be more optimistic, but yeah, I mean, there was areas and issues that we definitely need to improve on. Our secondary was not great. Some of our quarterback play was not great at times. It was inconsistent. So where do we need to improve? Kind of quarterback. If we improve our quarterback position, yeah, I think we look at a French playoff team. I think we look at 4-2. I think Brian and Dallas were more spot on with where this team's actually at than maybe Chris and I were.
Yeah. Sucks because I don't remember the preview. We're changing it up this year. Usually we go back, find quotes, make everybody try to decide who said that and, laugh at how dumb it was. I view the preseason show usually as a huge hype episode. I had no idea I picked a 6-0 in that episode. I very much in my head had us as a 4-2 with the UC Davis loss and the Eastern second loss like Dallas. Either way, I thought that was more of a we slip up in those, and we were not slip up either. We were not seconds away from being a playoff team. What you hit on, I mean, I'll just get all the points out there for everybody that just apparently loves to live in self-loathing doubt. Yeah, obviously Paul Petrino is not looking like it's working out very great. Nothing we're going to say on this show, I hate to break to you at home, is going to change that. He's not going anywhere. We can bag on him all we want. It's not going to get any better. So you just got to compartmentalize that and drink a glass of whiskey. I don't tell you. Alex hit on it. 4 quarterbacks in 6 games. Kind of hard to find a lot of teams that are going to win when that happens. It just doesn't. And I know, to be fair, some of the I think you saw ghosts of just about every single quarterback as well. We had a game where Nikhil Nair looked like an absolute baller against Southern Utah. And then we had a game where he looked like a completely different guy against Idaho State. Mike Beaudry able to get us a win there against Eastern Washington. But then again, second half, he kind of shows flashes of being great. First half was very rough. Finally kind of gets another game under his belt against NAU there. Looked very great in the second half. Started to look a little rough in the first half, a little rough in the second half. So you look at it, the only guy who showed super promise is CJ Jordan. But as we knew, one of the reasons Mike Beaudry was brought in is possibly the fear of making sure Jordan has enough time to heal. He got hurt. And Paul Petrino was big on this coming into the season, saying, I think talking about Beaudry, CJ, and Nikhil, I think all 3 guys need to be prepared to play because we saw what happened last year. As in when Mason went down and then Colton went down and then Nikhil had to come in against Idaho State because once again, 3rd-string quarterback. So you could say one of the things we've struggled with the absolute most is quarterback health, which is just, I don't know what you do about that. I think, 2016, the last year we've had a quarterback go from pole to pole. Look, it's no secret. You go look around the big sky. Eric Barrier, what does Eastern do if Barrier misses a game and they have to have Gunnar Talkington come in? It happens. I'm not saying we have an Eric Barrier on our roster, but Portland State, the ability to have a Davis Alexander play every game might get you that one extra game every season compared to just this rotating chairs we've had for 3 seasons now that is just exhausting. This one more injury forced, but 4 years because it went back to 2017 when Mason got playing time and Colton and Matt Linehan. So I don't know. It's a lot of it comes down to quarterbacks, but at the same time, I think we were harsh on the secondary, and rightfully so. The secondary had some very weak points this year. But at the end of the day, if you kind of just pull up what Idaho was able to do, for the most part, for how bad our secondary looked, the rest of our defense did a good enough job to make our defense still a formidable opponent. Our defense held just about all but I can think off the top of my head one game to a point total you would expect a team to be able to reach with a decent offense. And we just didn't have that. So you look, last year, a lot of people blamed the quarterback position for a different reason. This year, we're blaming it, but I think everybody can say that we probably have 4 guys on this roster people think are definitely better than what we've had the past 2, and we're putting out similar numbers offensively. We took a huge regression back in running back play, whether that was scheme, whether that was motivation, whether that was having 3 freshmen on the offensive line at times. We don't really know, but we had big hopes. We talked about, I think last year, Brian and I in our previews, that the running backs were probably the second deepest group on this team with guys like Roshan, Thigpen, Nick Romano. You had a guy like Martinez who was supposed to kind of come up and make some plays, and we didn't even see him, I don't think, at all this year. So it was rough, definitely rough. Do I think this is absolutely a, telltale sign of what to expect in the fall? No. But it definitely doesn't give you tons of hope either. Do I think we perform better in the fall? I don't know how you could perform much worse. And I think the heat will officially be on in the fall because Paul's contract officially becomes buyoutable. And if he does not succeed in the fall, he could very well not get that final year.
I wish 2023, in case you didn't know, that's his last year.
No, but I'm saying, but after this fall, we would be at a point where you could probably get the money together to buy out.
I love the optimism, Chris. That's the Martin Heemstra, hot take Heemstra school of optimism. Maybe it's the Stockholm syndrome that's set in for me that I'm expecting.
Yeah,
it's just
definitely is
the day the contract
you
expires.
really live in self-loathing.
I really do. I mean, shit, looking into the teams I support, it makes sense. For me, to answer Nick's question, not surprised due to COVID or disappointment. This is absolutely just disappointment to me. Like, I get it.
COVID at all.
No, the UC Davis was obviously a depth issue, but I don't think they win that game at full health. It's tough to look at these box scores going back. The Eastern game, obviously the first game in a year and a half. We all looked at this game and thought, wow, Mike Beaudry's pretty rusty. Things are going to get better. This was Beaudry's best game of the season, and he completed.
It was his only game of the season.
And he did play the UC Davis game the next week. This was the best line we got from the quarterback position all year. Next week, UC Davis, his completion percentage goes up, but he does throw the 2 picks. Doesn't quite look as good, but we chalked that up to UC Davis having a pretty good defense. Next week, he's out. CJ Jordan plays a little bit. Obviously not overwhelming statistics, but he does look really good out there as a true freshman. Has some stuff come off the board because of penalties and whatnot. I mean, everybody remembers the Cottrell Haywood helmet get ripped off and kind of bullshit call there. But Nair steps in, looks great, goes 12 of 20, gets the 2 touchdowns. Looks like, where has this kid been? Why has he not been playing? We immediately go to Idaho State. Beaudry plays, looks okay, gets hurt. Nair comes in, and again, we now hear that he was hurt through this. Completes 33% of his passes, looks absolutely terrible. Then we go to Borish, who hasn't played quarterback in 4 years, doesn't get a chance to throw the ball a lot, looks great on the ground. Go to NAU, Beaudry's back in, looks okay for a quarter, looks actually pretty good for a quarter, and then kind of terrible for the next 3. We all, at least we all were optimistic this season that things were going to get better. That's why we all thought it was going to be 6-0 or 5-1 or 4-2. We all thought things were going to look better, and maybe with some actual consistency at quarterback it does. But for me, this is just disappointment. we all talk about the dead horse. I know I'm one of the biggest proponents of that, thinking that, this is year 3 in the Big Sky. We've moved on from the nepotism experiment, because I think Paul knew he wasn't going to get fired for playing his kid. I can't blame him. I probably would have done the same thing if I was him. And here we go 2-4, which is even worse than they've gone in conference the previous 2 years. And that's, for me, that's just disappointing. I really thought, okay, year 3 in the Big Sky, no more kid dad ball. It's going to be a bunch of just guys that aren't related to Petrino, like a regular football team should be. And here they go 2-4 and don't look particularly good doing it. If we go back to Southern Utah, 7 seconds from this team being 1-5. Eastern, 54 seconds left in a game they would have lost if the Big Sky had gotten that field goal correctly. Like, we're about a minute away from this team going 0-6. Now, on the other foot, they were competitive in every game. So there's definitely breaks that could have happened here, but it sucks. And I know I went off on this for the last the post-game show at NAU, but there's so much talent here. There's so many kids here that are so good.
Oh yeah, talent is not the issue.
Like year in and year out, the recruiting classes are so high because there are some good kids here, and it's disappointing to see. We thought we had a team that was going to really do something, or at least show some real strides, and instead they're stuck in neutral, just like they were in previous seasons.
Yeah, because you bring up such a good point too, and like the talent is on the team. This definitely doesn't feel like a player issue. I mean, maybe an execution issue of players, but like the talent on our roster is one of the deepest in the Big Sky. Like, you look, we possibly have 2. I mean, I think it's safe to say Trey Walker is going to get NFL looks. We possibly have 2 NFL guys playing linebacker at the same time. And to be fair, our linebackers have never much looked like the problem. But it's like, you have that. You have a guy like Chuck Akano who like is there. You think about like even the like one-hit wonders who have had no time in this program, and a guy like Ty Walker in 2018, and a guy like Andre Carter in 2019. Like, these are first-year guys that were huge contributors. And, it's crazy to just think that we have this talent. Cottrell Haywood, Jeff Cotton. Like, it's no secret that, like, Petrino's been able to get more NFL talent in here than Rob Akey. Like, you look at the guys that Akey brought in, Ko, Iapati, aren't Akey. He brought in what? Quentin Bradley and Benson Mayowa?
And Corey Toomer.
Yeah, Corey Toomer. But like, so you got 3 guys. We got 3 guys that were on an NFL roster or could be on NFL rosters playing at the same time, and we couldn't get a winning record. At least when Akey had that all going, we won a bowl game. Like, I don't know. It just sucks that you see the talent, because like, you don't want to blame the players. I think I saw it pop up. Nick Weber brought it up. Yeah, we were hard on the secondary. The secondary looked improved. And if you're going to take a positive into fall, we went really heavy on DB in the recruiting class. And you also have a guy like Darian Nash who provides some leadership. So it's like, I don't know. There are some silver linings, but like, we haven't really showed that like we're able to put it together in anything either.
Yeah, I'm going to say, to answer Nick's question, it's definitely disappointment. Part of it, I really think, is the schematic approach to the offense. And the stat I'm going to reference, Mike Beaudry played essentially 3 complete games in terms of like stats accrued. He played all of Eastern. He played all of UC Davis. He split reps with Borscht, but he had all but 1 series in the second half. He had about 3/4 of snaps for that game. That's fine to call a Beaudry game. His accuracy was fine, 59%. The big issue that he had is Beaudry averaged of any quarterback who'd call starter this year, Beaudry averaged the fewest yards per attempt at 6.4. As a reference, top of the conference was Tyler Vanderwald, Idaho State at 8.7, pretty big gap. And he also averaged the fewest yards per completion by a relatively good margin. Beaudry was 10.8 per completion. Again, top of the conference, Tyler Vanderwald, 16.1. Idaho doesn't have to do what Idaho State does in terms of stretching the field, but I just think if we're going to be as conservative passing the ball as we are, our quarterback's got to have a completion percentage close to what Justin Miller has at Southern Utah, 66.7%.
We took more shots with Mason at quarterback.
Yeah,
We threw more fades with Mason at quarterback than we did with Beaudry at quarterback this year.
exactly. And that's part of why, Alex, it was tough watching where Beaudry would look. I mean, look, he certainly had some consistency issues. Like against NAU, he's 8-9 in the first quarter for 101 yards. Looks great. Then he's 11 for 23 for 111 yards the rest of the way. But also, look, if a guy is not going to complete 67% of his passes, he has to be a little bit more aggressive. But simultaneously, the secondary, we gave up 9 yards per attempt on the season, which is more yards than the best passer in the league in terms of yards per attempt had the entire season. So essentially our average was every week we played against a guy who was as though he were the best quarterback in the league in terms of yards per attempt. And even when we did look better. I mean, look, we looked good against Eric Berrier in the wind, but it was 25 miles an hour wind. He still threw for well over 300 yards, certainly took over the game in the fourth quarter. So for me, I mean, the disappointment is that I feel like I made the mistake of buying into Petrino as being a non-factor. And I guess I've just probably learned my lesson, because you guys are all right. We've talked about this different times. This team has some talent. There's obviously gaps. We talked in episode 1, secondary and O-line are going to be a question. Hey, dude, they're still huge target areas for us to get better. If Beaudry gets better protection, he's probably going to be more comfortable. If CJ Jordan's in there, he gets better protection. Obviously, it's not going to hurt anyone. But I mean, if we're going to average 23 points a game on offense like we did, which is worst in the league other than Cal Poly, heck, we were closer to Cal Poly in points per game than we were to Weber State in points per game. And Weber State is known for having an anemic offense. Mm-hmm. So just if that's how we're going to be offensively, we just have no margin for error on the defensive side of the ball, which is frustrating to say because, like, you know, we have all talked about, we do have a lot of very good players who could start on essentially any Big Sky team, be meaningful players on any Big Sky team. But here we are, 2-4. Doesn't feel like the Vandals are surging anymore.
Yeah. To bring up, I mean, I hate breaking down the talent, especially when we're not previewing season, we're reviewing. But like, just because it wasn't part of the NAU discussion, like, you know, you had a lot of guys like Solly Shannon and those guys playing. The Hogan Hatton, like, it was cool to see that, like, our linebacking play, not a huge dip off, which is promising, knowing that, like, it's a little scary when you think about losing guys like Trey, possibly Christian this year. Chuck's a redshirt senior. He could decline his eligibility. We haven't heard that he is, but he, in theory, could. It was nice to see we had some of these young dudes who are freshmen, redshirt freshmen, come in, and we still look pretty dang good at the linebacking core. But then one of the problems is we haven't been recruiting D-line the last couple seasons either. So I also think, like, you're looking at, even if we can get a little momentum going in fall of 2021, man, this recruiting year is going to be huge because, like, you have to fill up, probably still fix the secondary, start getting some offensive line replacements, and start getting some defensive lineman replacements. And it's no secret, we still are yet to have a speed guy at wide receiver. And to be, like, I get that that's, like, we can throw that on the pass game. It's not, because Tanner Connor and Landon Meesum are by no means speedy individuals, and yet they were amazing. Some of that's concept of having a speed guy like Gilroy or whatever for Idaho State. But at the same time, like, man, I get that, like, Paul keeps trying to bring in a speed guy. At this point, man, you got to throw 3 of them at the wall and see if one sticks. Like,
well, let's not forget our number 2 receiver. Well, yeah, I mean, Jermaine Jackson was supposed to be our number 2 receiver this year. It wasn't supposed to be Hatton. Like, people don't realize that. It was supposed to be Jermaine Jackson, and Cottrell was supposed to be week one, blew out his knee. I don't know how bad of a blowout. I don't know how long he's out. We hope we see him in the fall. We wouldn't plan on it. Knee recoveries are a lot faster than they used to be. But anytime you lose your speed guy, your second best receiver preseason, week 1, that was a speed guy. That was supposed to be the slot guy who was supposed to be dynamic and shifty. We get the ball to in space on those quick, small routes, and he was going to make a play.
Lost Cottrell
and Hatton aren't that. They're supposed to be your possession guys. Go, run more longer developing routes. And the way that we ran the offense, we needed that speed guy to throw those quick intermediate routes to get the ball and make a play. I mean, even no matter how bad our offense was, I felt like David Unger was making plays his last 3 years at Idaho because we just throw balls underneath to him and he's running upfield somewhere, right? Like that, it's still fresh in my mind, and Dave still makes a living of that in the CFL. We missed that this year for sure. Hopefully we find something for that in the fall, because that's a big part of Petrino's offense, is always some smaller receivers who are quick on the quicker or intermediate passing game.
Yeah, but it just goes to show, like, I just don't think, and like I kind of said, I guess I just want to make sure the point is clear. Like, it just goes to show that, yes, while our secondary was not great, as Brian covered, worst in the Big Sky, our defense still performed admirably. Like, they put us in situations to win. There was no game it felt like the other team's offense was absolutely putting up points we shouldn't have been able to match. We just found ourselves not being able to match that. Like, I mean, you saw the box scores, Dallas? I'm just curious, like, what's the most points we gave up? 38?
So 33-32 Southern Utah, and then 38-31 Eastern. So 2 games over
38. So
hold up. We also got it with the Eastern, man. Eastern scored 38 points in less than 24 minutes of having possession. That's part of what I meant when I was bringing up that they're. I don't wholly see the growth thing. I mean, 38 points and 25-mile-an-hour wins in 24 minutes is that's a pretty big chunk of change.
But I'm just saying, if you have a good offense, all but maybe the 38 points, that is a score line that if you would say, I think we can get there, right? Like, I don't think there's any score line that we read like 32 points. I feel like, obviously, we got to 33. 27, we should be able to get to 27. 21, we got to 21. 38, a little tough. I mean, because we haven't put up 40 since Idaho State last year, maybe, or no, NAU. But and then 19 points. Like, we can't. What more do you want? NAU is a pass-first offense, and we held them to 19 points. Like, if you told me, I think most of us had high score predictions in every game, like we would go into, and then it's like, if I would have told you, all right, well, what if I tell you NAU scores 19 points? Do you think we win that game? I think most of us would be like, maybe we get 20. So, yeah, maybe. But it's like, we just can't put up points. It's so bizarre to me. Are you pulling up the average points per game that teams have let up? Is that what you're trying to highlight?
No, I was just showing
red zone defense. That was a good red zone defense.
Red zone
stat.
defense was pretty good, but then
that was the best in the
everything else
conference.
And we had the best red zone offense in the conference, but we just didn't get in the red zone.
No, too many punts from the 50 and the 45.
Yeah, we had a lot of stalling out this year.
Yeah, it felt like every game I was watching, we'd have few good first downs, and next thing you know, we're at the 50 and we punt.
And we also benefited from a lot of calls. I felt like this year, the only terrible call I think that went against us was the Cottrell hands to the face. Everything else I felt like usually bounced our way. We had some pass interferences, a missed field goal. So I think this year, you can't blame the refs. The refs probably helped keep some of our drives together, especially against Eastern. We had a lot of pass interference calls go our way. So it's so how much of that is the offense compared to us getting 15 yards a pop from the stripe shirts? There's just
throws.
I don't know.
Throws on those fades. That happens more often than not in college football anymore. The DBs just don't turn, and you just gotta put that ball up there and hope it happens, because it does happen quite a bit.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we drove down to the 45. I'm just saying, at points we were handed the 45-yard line.
Yeah,
and couldn't get to the 25 for a kick.
Well, and it's got to be some. I gotta hope Paul Petrino reevaluates the fact that Scott Borish was our second best offensive outing of the season on 3 days prep. If that's the reason why that conversation even lasted as long as it did afterward, when he didn't look particularly great passing the ball. Although, again, 25-mile-an-hour wins. It impacted Eric Barrier. He's the best quarterback in the league, so it's going to impact him. It's going to impact our fourth or fifth stringer. But second best offensive outing of the season came when Paul had to do, the opposite of what he wanted to do. That point has got to mean something for a team that averaged 23 points a game this season. And that's all. By the way, 23 is buttressed off of getting 31 out of Borish. You subtract the Borish game, we're under 23. So that's just the offensive thing that we're all talking about in different ways. Is that topic wouldn't be it would be magnetizing to 4 fans on all Vandals, because we know we've talked about on the show the Scott Borish conspiracy, but the fact that he came in, gave us our second best offensive outing of the season, if that doesn't give pause to the head coach about, hey, like maybe we're way too conservative if running the ball every single play was more effective than what I did all but one game the entire season, I don't really know what's going to.
Yeah. Let's move on here. Hashtag Ask Tubbs from Idaho, grown T Cash, Taylor Cash. Hashtag Ask Tubbs. What's your guys' best and worst moments of the season? Dallas?
Oh man, best moments. The Beaudry touchdown at the end of the Eastern game. That was mind blowing. That was kind of the pinnacle of this season for me. Thinking, okay, Eastern dropped a ton of balls. Barrier's accuracy wasn't quite there. Both teams were pretty rusty. The refs missed that awful field goal, but at the end of the day, they got it done. Beaudry hit the score when it counted, and then the worst moment was everything else after that. Realistically, though, the worst moment was Idaho State going in there thinking, it's a rivalry game, but this is nut up or shut up time, and this is where we're going to find out if this team is actually in that second tier we've kind of talked about of Eastern. UC Davis thought it was going to be Idaho, or this team is just the same old, and that's kind of where it fell apart. Also, shout out to Cade Coffey hitting the 51-yarder in this final game. That was pretty cool. But those were my best and worst moments.
Bowman?
Yeah, Paul Petrino has never attempted a field goal longer than that in his 8 seasons as Idaho head coach. So props to Cade. Best moments, it's going to be either Beaudry or Nikhil. I'm just going to go that whole Nikhil drive, right? Like, it's a 2-minute drill. It's a guy who's never played that much meaningful football in his career and caught at the collegiate level. I felt good for him going down there and doing that, and Cottrell making up for that touchdown drop he had earlier that game. Worst moments, I'm going to say NAU just as a whole. I mean, we didn't score any offensive points. Our only score of that game was our kicker, who should have had 12 points, and we should have been within 6, right? Talking to him about that missed field goal he had. But I think that NAU game, Idaho State, I knew that game was going to be weirdly tough. But you thought maybe NAU would win a game on the road there at the end of the year, and just to not put up any offensive points sucks.
Yeah, for me, So Brian, you can go first or next.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna say being in the Southern Utah game was the high point for me. There's excitement after the Eastern game, but look, we were 2-1 after Southern Utah playoffs. Being that fringe playoff team was still in the picture. Mm-hmm. Seeing CJ Jordan look every bit as good as promised. Like we know that some big plays were taken off the board, but we saw him in person, man. He looked good. That way, I also got to meet Dallas and Boatman like in person in a way I hadn't really got to before, which is just fun. Being at the games now, because of the show, like there are some people who like the show. People are just friendly now, which is fun. So being at a good game like that, where still thought playoff hopes were alive, that was probably the top for me. Man, and low point, oh my God, man. NAU was really frustrating in that to me, that game, Idaho State was probably more like emotionally devastating, but losing NAU the way we did, putting up 9 points against a not very good defense. Our defense looking great, but a blocked punt gave NAU their only touchdown, or put them in position for their only touchdown. That was an unbelievably rough game to get through. That was the only game we had this season where I was telling myself, if we didn't have a show, I'm not watching this game. But it just, yeah, you compare that to the high of Southern Utah, that's definitely my low point.
Yeah, my high point, it's hard either winning and tackling Dallas, or obviously for me, anytime I will be synonymous with Nikhil Nair, like going forever, because I've been calling for him for 2 years. When he went in against Florida, like I was actually driving to meet people. I saw the game, flipped it off to go drive to people to watch the game at their house, because we don't get games on ESPN all the time. And all of a sudden, Nikhil Nair just blows up on my Twitter, and I'm like, holy crap, my guy's in. TJ's texting me. I'm trying to find the game on the radio. Like, So that was big. And then, got to play against Idaho State, held on for the win there. And then obviously getting to see really him, you get to take a game into control instead of just like manage it and get 6 throws against Florida and then like 7 throws against Idaho State. So seeing Nikhil get a whole second half basically was really cool. That was a high for me. Low, this is weird to say because it totally contradicts everything I said. Probably Southern Utah, because though we won, that was the game where I started to turn and realize what the season was going to go to. So that or UC Davis. Because UC Davis, I mean, just think about that. You talked about being 2-1. Like, imagine if we beat UC Davis, held on there, didn't just, could have had a couple stops. Like, we're 3-0 going into Idaho State, and like the second half of the season would probably be a whole different disaster because we didn't get like a slow burn up to it. It'd been like, oh wow, we got upset. Oh wow, we just lost to Eastern. Oh wow, we just lost to NAU. At least like we got that slow burn up of like we lost early to UC Davis, struggled against Southern Utah, lost to Idaho State, lost to Eastern, lost to NAU. Like you kind of got to watch your hopes slowly fade away instead of like, can you imagine if we were 3-0 going to Idaho State, how pissed we would have been about that game, and then how we would have been talking about how pissed this team was to come back against Idaho or Eastern Washington, probably still lose that game. Like, I don't know, Southern Utah, just seeing that it did take, even with, I mean, it's no secret. I've been talking up CJ since we signed him. He's definitely who I want to see at quarterback. Shout out, go watch his highlight video. Tell us if you guys recognize anybody in it. But I also was worried to see that he put up that performance. Nikhil looked great, and we still struggled to get out of that game with a win. The guy who I think is absolutely the future of the program, the guy who I wish had been the future of the program for the last 2 years, both look phenomenal, and we barely escaped by Southern Utah. And that's where I started to realize why I predicted us to lose to Idaho State. Idaho State was trending up, and we were trending down. And that's why that game did not strike me. I thought it was very obvious we were going to be the worst team in that game, or out of the two playing. So for me, if Southern Utah, though it was cool to see those guys play, both of them, the fact that both of them played great and we still barely beat Southern Utah, it worried me. So that was my low, because after that, my expectations, I saw Idaho State coming, and then it was all downhill from there. But next up, where is Idaho compared to the rest of the Big Sky? And I think we can kind of pair this into the next kind of point we had here. Does the 2-4 finish change your understanding of Idaho headed into fall of 2021? So let's kind of talk about fall 2021 here. 1,000-mile view, right? We've got a whole summer, maybe some transfers, some dudes who could leave. Other teams have tons of news, but we've seen Montana play. We've seen Portland State play. Montana State plays a spring game. You remember those old classic things this weekend. So we'll have an idea about kind of where Idaho is headed into 2021. Middle of the pack, bottom of the pack, pushing playoff tier, pushing championship tier. And how much stake do you put in? I mean, this is the whole thing we talked about at the beginning of the year. How much stake do you put in a 6-game spring season? Is this a telltale sign for the fall? Or is this you tried some things didn't go our way, lack of motivation? Brian?
Oh, this absolutely obliterates the idea of Idaho trending up. I know that I bought into the idea of us being potentially a fringe playoff team heading into this season, which is what the understanding would have been had a spring season not existed. And I mean, you look at the teams who didn't play, which is Montana. Montana just put up 48 against Portland State. Portland State shut us out last year. We're not beating that team. Then Montana State, I mean, maybe there's variables about how they look, but they certainly, you'd have to project them being above us. Ditto Sac State. So, I mean, we finished 2-4, but there were 3 tough teams that could have been on a schedule that weren't. Montana and Montana State are on our schedule for the fall. So, I mean, what this makes me understand the team as is if Idaho's trending up, like it's just at the most minuscule rate possible. And we're not we're not a bad team. But if you thought fringe playoff run was on the table, I mean, I picked us this season as though I thought fringe playoff season was on the table. Not a chance that's going to happen in the fall. That I guess I honestly thought with the talent that like Petrino would be a non-factor, and the talent he might not win games for us, but wouldn't lose any. No, I'm going to view Idaho now as an agent of chaos. We're not going to make the playoffs. We're going to have some wretched games, but we're also going to have some pretty good looking games against good teams. And then we're likely going to leave confused about how the hell do we understand who we are.
Yeah. And my take, you want something to hang your hat on. Some team in the Big Sky that's supposed to be trash always seems to win it. Maybe it's us. So, run with that as far as you can run with it. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, Brian kind of touched on it. We get a lot of the tough teams like next year. Our schedule does us zero favors. Now, the Big Sky is the Big Sky. UC Davis could totally fall flat on their face. I mean, Portland State's a consensus top 4 Big Sky program, according to Big Sky media types. You're at Eastern. You're home against Montana. We'll probably beat NAU at home. We do have in the Big Sky a winning record at home each season. So that will be great. Probably beat Southern Utah at home. You're probably going to lose to Montana State, who, maybe if you had them early in the season, you could get them with the new coach and still no real exclamation point at quarterback. But by the second to last game of the season in Bozeman in the snow, I don't like us in that matchup. Idaho State, the road teams won every single year. What's to say that's going to change? Like, this schedule did not break our way. I mean, NAU and Southern Utah, probably the only 2 games I expect us to for sure win. Probably Portland State. We'll probably win all our home games except Montana, and we'll probably yet to have a road win again. We will be 1 and what would that be? 15, 14 on the road in the Big Sky. Not stellar. And of course, we schedule Indiana. Woohoo! Like terrible cellar dweller of a Big Ten program who all of a sudden, right before we play them, becomes a top 10 program. Oregon State trending up. So even like our Power 5 games, like if you wanted to be like, well, maybe they're games we can be competitive in for a half for once. Nope. Indiana's probably going to kill us. Oregon State's probably going to kill us. Simon Fraser, we don't necessarily blow teams out. We struggle with Western New Mexico State. Kind of struggled to get off the ground against Central Washington. Expect something similar week 1 against Simon Fraser. Maybe a little less with all this practice we were able to get in the spring. But, I mean, yeah, you're going to be middle of the pack where we've been, somewhere between 6 and 10 probably is my guess. Finishing preseason poll.
6 and 10. Oh, in the poll. I was like,
the poll, yeah. 6 and probably going to be ranked somewhere around 9 to 10 entering the season. Maybe you can crawl up to that 6th spot. I'm talking preseason Big Sky poll, everybody. But
Boatman does. I mean, you have player background, Boatman. Does how this season shook? Does that change your understanding of Idaho heading into next season?
If anything, I think going into the last couple games, guys I talked to were actually pretty excited. I don't think it changes the expectation. I think, they were disappointed on how things were, but they also, like I said, I'm going to take a more glass half full approach because as a player, that's what you do. And they were, man, we're so close. Man, they feel really close inside the program, right? But I look at this schedule and I see 5 and 6. I see 4 and 7. We'll win more than 3 games. If we break 6 and 5, if we get to 6 and 5, that's a hell of a year, boys. That's when I see that schedule. If we go 6 and 5, because Dallas, he did have that schedule up. Yeah, Simon Fraser should win. Indiana, Oregon State probably lose by at least 4 scores. Probably lose to UC Davis. Probably beat Portland State. Maybe, hopefully, pray. We're at home, so we seem to do well at home.
We beat Portland State at home before.
We'll probably play Eastern close for some ungodly reason, even though they're going to probably be a top 10 team in the FCS, and they're going to hate us for it. Montana, I don't even know where to go with that one. NAU, Southern Utah, we might lose both of those. I'm not sure. And then we'll probably somehow lose to NAU and Southern Utah, but then somehow finish off beating Montana State and Idaho State for no ungodly reason other than that we're Idaho and we don't make sense. And so we talk about Eastern's missed phantom field goal. I still have a bone to pick with Bozeman's uprights too. So let's not forget that in 2018. And that was an actual 1-point thing that was like actually going to send the game to overtime. So
yeah,
still have bone to pick there. I don't know. I mean, expectations. Expect to win 4 games. Be going 5. If we win 6 games, be happy. That's where I'm going to say. That's how
and to be fair, before we criticize ourselves too much for all of our hype, we were a preseason top 25 team by multiple actual media outlets. So it's not like we sat here on this podcast. Yeah, it's not like we sat here on this podcast and artificially made ourselves feel great. There were a lot of people, not including us, that thought this team was going to be able to put something together. But Dallas, we're going to hear changes in expectations.
To loop it back to the question, does the 2-4 finish change our understanding of Idaho headed into fall 2021? Absolutely, it does. I truly believed deep down that this team, when Mason Petrino was no longer the quarterback, it would turn around and Idaho would become the bully that we were told they were going to be when they dropped down to the FCS. And this season proved to me that's not going to happen. As long as Paul Petrino is here, this team is not going to finish in the top half of the Big Sky. There's just nothing here that convinces me that anything's going to change. He's 1-11 on the road in the last 3 years. I think 3-5, 3-5, 2-4 in conference the last 3 years. It wasn't just Mason isn't running the offense because he can't throw it as far as we might want him to. This is what Idaho football is. A team that has a good front seven, a secondary that is hit or miss. Maybe that's because there seems to be a lot of cover 0 and cover 1 and the cushion of death from the secondary, and not enough points to actively win games. It's a tough pill to swallow for me. It has completely changed my understanding of Idaho. I truly believed if they'd played fall 2020 and then this spring 2021, I honestly believed Idaho was going to be competing for a playoff spot. And right now, I see nothing to make me think that that's going to happen next season.
All right. Let's wrap up around the bar with one word to describe the season, and you can't use disappointment because we already covered it was disappointing. Back to you, Dallas.
This is going to get profane. Clusterfuck.
You got to give a longer pause before you just drop the swear word.
Sorry. If anybody's listening, rewind time for 20 seconds and then pause the podcast.
Now I got to go put the explicit tag on it. God darn. Or edit it. We'll see. But I'm not probably editing this one. So for me, is unhyped a word? Like, if it's not, it's officially a word. The season was very unhyped, as in like not hyped, but like unwound. The hypeness unwound itself throughout the season. We went real high, real low, to the point where it was like a joke at the end. Brian?
Staying narrow to Idaho football, to me, it's chaos, but not in the sense of us causing chaos in the conference, as in us being chaotic towards ourselves. And the thing to look at is every season, man, we're going back and forth about like, hey, we're talented, but we're not putting it together. Hey, we look better our front seven is great, but our secondary is worse in the league. There's just through the season, the program itself is far too chaotic in my mind for what I thought they were going to be.
Bowman, one word for the season.
Oh, hold on.
That sounds like a good answer to me, man.
Hold on. I'm looking for a fun word to say.
You can borrow mine.
Just shortfall. I mean, we just fell short in a lot of different areas. Fell short in the win column. our defense fell short of stopping the pass, and our offense fell short of putting up enough points. So say shortfall. Yeah.
Real quick, Boatman, what have you kind of ears to the pavement there on transfer and players not taking their eligibility, other than obviously the myth, the man, the legend, number 15, Cade Coffee?
Yeah, so Cade has kind of made it known that he will not be returning in the fall. He could have come back. I pleaded for him to be a 25-year-old senior this October. He didn't want to do it. It's really funny. Cade would have been a 25-year-old senior, and Cade's Mormon, but he didn't go on his mission. So that would have been really funny. I wish he would have, but I understand life calls, and he's ready to move on. I know NFL scouts have been reaching out. But I know he's prepared not to try and pursue football, but mainly if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I think he's going to get into financial services or things like that in the real world of life. Cameron Lang, long snapper or short snapper, because he did PAT duties, is also not coming back. So we lost 2 of our 4 specialists that we use on fourth downs. Hatton will be back. The other Hatton will be back to snap, and Connor Whitney will still be around to hold. Logan Prescott will take over kicking and kickoff. He still does kickoff duties. He probably will punt, but I'd love if Idaho brought in a punter as Landon Rico comes in next fall from his mission. Yes, there is another Rico. Yes, one is probably better than the other one. His name's Ryan. Sorry, Austin. Ryan's better, and he's at BYU. Christian Ellis is testing out the NFL. Did not sign an agent. So if nothing happens, I think it's pretty much if he doesn't get drafted, he'll be back. And I know Caden doesn't have an agent either. In my conversations, it's pretty much if he does not get drafted, he's coming back to Idaho. He's not transferring anywhere. I haven't heard of Trey Walker transferring. I think would have seen a lot of guys put their name in the transfer portal this week for Idaho. We have not really. FCS kind of blew up with transfer portal guys this week. We haven't seen anything as of yet out of Idaho that was too big. I know Tevin Duke is not coming back to the program. I don't know if that's a transfer or just wanting to leave football, but no one else is really transferring out as of right now. So if we somehow get Christian Ellis back, he doesn't get drafted, I pray to God that the NFL teams want to talk to him next season. I hope we can return a lot of our starters, and we pretty much only starter we would have lost is our All-American kicker and punter.
Yeah.
That's stability is great. So yeah, Trey Walker is not going anywhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say Trey Walker on Twitter. Love this program. We building up 5 days ago with a highlight from the University of Idaho. That sounds to me like a guy who intends on returning. He doesn't say I love this program. We building up, and then hightail it to the old portal that'll send you somewhere magical.
And like Patrick's question says on the screen, about whether or not declare or not. I know the with basketball, it became if you didn't sign an agent, you could go to the draft. You didn't get drafted, you can come back. I think football has adopted that model, and I think especially there's more leniency this spring, especially for FCS players. Right? What else are they supposed to do? They kind of got screwed. So from what I've heard, that's what's going to happen. He doesn't sign an agent, doesn't have a lawyer really. But everyone else is pretty much back. So, we talk about talent, we talk about stability. It doesn't hurt a team having that much guys coming back who had playing time at a Division I level that might not have had, especially guys in secondary and on the offensive line. So we return a lot. Hopefully Chuck is healthier. I hope Jermaine Jackson's healthier, but I think we're pretty stable in terms of roster turnover this year, which to kind of talk about, I know I'm getting long here on this. There's guys who are in the transfer portal, newly in the transfer portal from FBS who have played, who we can't go after, right? Like there's guys we just can't spend scholarships on because we don't have that much turnover this year. So that is kind of another interesting move. I know, like I see guys all the time, and I send some guys to some coaches that I know, hey, what about this guy? And it's just I've heard back, we don't have the scholarships to give out right now because of our lack of turnover. So another interesting take. We can't go get transfer talent that is now in the portal. So.
Can we borrow some of the basketball scholarships that aren't being used? Boat? Any news on that?
I wish, Brian. Why don't we just? We should just give them to us. We put them on basketball scholarship. They'll probably still be better basketball players than our old guys who'd left anyway for the most part. And
that's true. Jackson
honestly,
Woodwards, he's starting at safety.
We had an intramural team at Idaho back in the day that had some good basketball talent on it. Caden Ellis, Austin Rico.
Can we transfer Jackson Woodward's scholarship to basketball and then open that up to recruit somebody in, but Jackson still participates on the football team?
I know just the guy. Zach Bafis hit a nasty mid-range jumper for our intramural team back in the day. Hit that 18-footer perfectly every time.
Alex, you can't say this out loud because if you read the stories about Kloss recruiting, that whatever the dude's name is just said, he's getting a text message right now about
Zach Bafis.
Bafis. Bafis, you still want to play?
Bafis, come out of retirement from football, come back from Salt Lake, selling real estate. We'll get you back in Moscow.
All right, we're going long, and I just saw these miscellaneous #AskTubs because we're trying out new formats. We're going to run through these literally fast as can be, but I want to reward everybody for actually asking #AskTubs. So thank you guys for that. We got from @VandalLee. Given that our offensive line and defensive secondary are in need of help, who do you see currently on team that can step up and help out, Bowman?
A team that can step up and help out. I think our O-line actually did improve quite a bit over the course of the year. I don't think they're going to be a problem group for us in the fall unless we randomly missed 3 guys in a game like we did against UC Davis. I will kind of always point to that as a reason we maybe lost that game because Mike Beaudry was running for his life and CJ Jordan might have been better suited for that game. Secondary, I'm blanking on his name. He's not on the team currently, but he's coming in the fall.
Zamajay Duncan.
Yes, him. Probably one of our more highly recruited players we've landed in a long time.
Yeah, I think. Does anybody have an answer that's not Zamajay Duncan?
I don't know who else because Daryn Nash, as you mentioned, I've heard he's not come back to the program, which is not great. So,
well, to be fair, he got picked on a lot at Montana. That was kind of a gamble to begin with.
Yeah. So, you just hope some guys get better. You hope we just see improvement. I know we had some JUCO guys and transfers who hadn't played too much this last spring. Josh Jones, Arnell Parker. No, Alwan Parker. Anyway, I hope Arnell Walker and Alwan Parker, I hope both of those guys do kind of step up at the corner position because we really need it.
And for the most part, Boatman, you actually answered this earlier with the scholarship thing of our best shot there is just player development.
Yeah, it definitely is. We're going to have to develop these guys.
We got a lot of young dudes.
Yeah, we're going to have
secondary and offensive line.
We just need 1 or 2 guys in that secondary to step up. I still think Tyrese Dedman's a solid safety, a lot of playing experience. We just need corners. How many times this year did we see guys just throw jump balls down the sideline and our guys not do much about it?
That's the only pass DeAndre Woodty has.
Right? How many times did Tyler Vanderwall do it to us? Right? If we stop half of those this year, I think we look at a completely different team. Right? We just need one corner to really step up and become a lockdown guy the way that Wood Hightower was for us.
Anyone else got anybody else?
I want to shout out Nate Azzapardi and Grayson Haywood, both playing in every single game on the line as true freshmen. Obviously, the line wasn't great, but if you're getting that experience as a freshman, I think Elijah Sanchez got a couple games in. They played 4 or 5 freshmen this year. So that getting snaps here in the spring, they'll still be freshmen in the fall. Being able to build off of that, hopefully we'll see the line kind of improve as we did have to.
I think you nailed it. The question at line was what are they going to look like? And did they look stellar? No. But did they look serviceable? Yes. And that was with a lot of young dudes. That will only get better with them playing. Yeah. So the line will take care of itself if we can keep the guys in-house. Last #AskTubs from Chris Riddlemoser. At Riddler83855. I see him in the comment section, so sorry if I phonetically said that wrong. Why should anyone watch this bleep anymore? Petrino's beyond incompetent. The administration does nothing about it. Do you guys enjoy getting kicked in the nuts every Saturday? Anybody
it's my drug.
Tackle this one?
I'll tackle this, dude. I did the Dallas and I did the basketball instant reaction episodes. So, my answer for the basketball season is the same as football season. One, there's people who want to talk about Idaho sports, and there's people who want to hear about Idaho sports. We're essentially the only fun coverage that exists, and the only coverage that has any sort of dissenting tone at all when we're losing games. Because I mean, part of why I got into this when you started this, Chris, I couldn't stand looking at Vandal Nation when we got killed, and the tone of what I was reading was, oh, well, yeah, of course everyone gets killed. There's nothing wrong here. I felt like for basketball season, it was important for people to get eyes on Klaus, who should never been hired in the first place. But for football season, one, we like it. This is the team we care about. But two, if you think there should be eyes on something you want changed, we're the only show in town, guys. So if we don't do it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. My take's always, at the end of the day, I'm a Vandal. Like, we've had worse seasons. Believe it or not, this season feels really bad. We've had seasons where we snuck out with 1 win. So at least we got 2, and we're trending to get 4 on normal years. Like, all things considered, this decade, or like the back half of this decade, from 16 to call this season what it was, so 20, so that doesn't count, but 18, 19, 16, 17, 18, 19, hell, even 15, we were winning 4+ games a year. You tell somebody that in the year like 2007, tell that to somebody in the year 2011, like they would tell you you're crazy. There's a time where we are expected to win 4 games. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, it sucks, and it took a move to the FCS to get there, even though 3 of those seasons were FBS seasons as well. But at the end of the day, it's better than it was. I'm a Vandal, and if I'm not talking about it on this show, I would just be self-pityful at my house. So this is a lot more fun. As far as the Petrino thing, man, and the administration not doing something, anybody's got money. I'm sure Scott Green would be willing to take it to buy out that contract. Problem is, nobody's ponying up the dough. There was talks 2 years ago. We had somebody tell TJ and I at a bar in Seattle who was on his way to meet with the president that was a topic of conversation, was what it would take to get rid of him. We don't have the money. Like, that's why we're stuck with it. So, like I said, we all know it's right there hitting us in the face every single week now. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, I mean, somebody can. Maybe you can, Chris. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't.
I enjoy getting kicked in the nuts every Saturday watching Idaho football. I've been doing it my whole life. I mean, so it's my drug in honor of 420. Idaho football's roller coaster is my drug.
We did have to the over under.
We did have to mention it. I mean, come on, it is here. And also, I mean, shoot, we do it because you guys love to listen. We have more listeners now than ever, and we also have the highest following of any Big Sky Podcast Network show. Only the one with over 1,000 followers on Twitter by a mile. So yeah, there's a market for Idaho misery, and we're the kings of it. So
can you imagine when we're good if we start losing followers?
So dude, we have to hear from Dallas.
This is my life.
We have to hear from Dallas on this too, guys. But just FYI, what Boatman said, if we weren't getting downloads from our awful basketball season, we would have stopped, and I would have just had a life on Saturday. But the amount of people who followed a 1-win team was much higher than you would guess, and it was much more stable than you might have guessed. So there's a market. There are Vandals out there. People do want to hear this stuff. But I mean, look who else? Idaho basketball doesn't have a beat writer. So like, if it's not us, then who? But we got to hear hammered down on this too.
So for me, it's being a Vandal is pain. I say it all the time on Twitter. It's just that's what it is. I was a freshman in 2009, so that bowl game, I was at it. It was incredible. The next season, they lost a bunch of one-score games, and they still looked competitive. And then in 2011, shots fired at the current coaching staff. Brian Reeder put together like the worst quarterback season I've ever seen in my entire life, and they lost a whole bunch of games because they scored 11 points against Louisiana Tech, 14 points against Hawaii. They lost in overtime against Virginia because he threw into triple coverage over the top of Mike LeGrone's head. Like, a lot of really awful things. It was like, okay, maybe there's hope here. And that was when I started selling myself on there's going to be hope. And then we watched the program explode when in Akey's final year, where they started getting blown out by 40 against guys and all the allegations of things that were going on in the background, and Petrino rebuilding the culture of the program, but not really rebuilding the results. And every year is just hope. And it's nice to talk to people that aren't selling the same hope that Vandal Nation and Go Vandals are, where it's like nothing bad ever happens. This is a place that I feel like I can talk with these three guys, and I guess 4 or 5 guys, because you count Martin and Sean in there too, where we can kind of talk about the actual shit that's going on with Idaho sports, because most of the time it is misery. And now that I'm not on campus anymore, I'm not even in Idaho anymore, I've got nowhere to go other than Tubbs. So that's why I listened for so long. That's why you guys brought me in here. I see Riddle Moser is now jumping in, pointing out really bad years for other teams. And I reminded him the 2011 La Tech game, and just bad football for years.
Hey, goddamn, it's great talking about Idaho sports and our subpar performances throughout our whole lives. But hey, it's what I'm here for. I'm here to tell you.
Someday we'll get to enjoy the fruits of our labor.
I'm always going to remind you of the 80s.
Hopefully undefeated, at least FCS undefeated Idaho team.
Yes, it is, Patrick.
Really get to enjoy those days and go. You guys remember the days where we had to cover like 3 D1 wins in a calendar year? How great was that, huh? Anyways, for men's sports, women's sports, getting on that soccer wagon. Women's hoops are freaking ballers. But that's Around the Bar. Brought to you by Hughes River Expedition. So a new sponsor, once again, give them some love. Let them know that the Tub sent you. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Venture into the largest protected wilderness in the continental United States, located right here in the great state of Idaho. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of no return, the Salmon River Canyons, or the Selway. You can even go on special trips like one to see the Perside meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and take in the history all along the river's edge. Oh, and by the way, you get to fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the country. Rivery. You bring your clothes on the HRE, handle the rest. Hughes River Expedition has been Vandal owned and operated since 1976 and ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. What are you waiting for? Find out what it's like to grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882. Check them out at hughesriver.com. The doc got stuck on scroll, and I couldn't see the bottom line.
We just got the comment of the year in Nick Weber saying he downloaded basketball episodes to keep me off the streets. Nick, my family thanks you.
Yeah, that was, dude. If we had 100 Nick Webers, I don't know. We probably do have 100 Nick Webers. It's probably why everybody downloads it, actually. But thank you for leading the charge there, Nick. Watching the TV this weekend, pretty easy. But we're only going to care about the Big Sky games. Eastern Washington versus North Dakota. Oh, by the way, it's the FCS playoffs in case you didn't put that together. And there's 2 Big Sky teams playing in it. What are your guys' predictions on NDSU versus EWU? Dallas?
Oh, God. I want to pick Eastern because, as I've admitted, Eastern is my quote-unquote second team in the Big Sky, but North Dakota State.
Brian? Sorry. Go ahead, Dallas.
I was just saying, I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think North Dakota State wins by double digits.
Brian?
I'm going to go North Dakota State. I'm in the same world as Dallas. I really want to pick Eastern. I really want to pick Barrier. I just feel like they're very good. They just don't have the upper echelon talent they did in 2018.
Bowen?
Did you guys see the video of Trey Lance throwing in the Fargo Dome for his pro day this week?
I like where you're going. You stole me. Yep.
Did you? You saw it, Chris?
Yeah.
Is he playing for North Dakota State on Saturday?
No, he is not.
Eastern Washington wins by 2 scores.
Yeah, I also have Eastern Washington curb stomping the Bison. The Bison have not looked good all year. Zeb Nolan looks like he could barely start at Idaho.
Isn't Zeb not playing? That's the only reason why I didn't pick them.
They keep saying that, but yet he keeps rolling out there.
Okay, well, then if Zeb
plays, they lost their starting running back, so they kind of lost that running back by committee. You are taking in a normal year. Yeah, it's cold, whatever you get. You're going to take who should be the Walter Payton Award winner, best player in the FCS, and you're going to put him in a 72-degree climate change dome to play this season against a watered-down defense that's dealing with a lot of injury right now?
Easterns look better, I think, honestly, too.
I have them by 14.
Was against Idaho State. It sucks for them losing Ty Graham. Shout out Ty Graham. We love Ty Graham on this podcast. Blew out his knee again. Other knee that he blew out from when he's at Idaho. So one of their defensive captains will not be playing this Saturday. But, yeah.
I just think, dude, NDSU doesn't have the horses to keep up with Eastern. Eastern's can put the points. I have my brackets on FCS Fans Nation. I have scores for every single game in my bracket. I had this one as 34-20 Eagles. Let's get on to Weber State. I might be going down to this game if our friends at Weber State Weekly can get me tickets. Dallas, who you got for the Wildcats versus the Salukis?
Oh, they're not going to like this. I've got the Salukis.
Brian?
So I'm going to go Weber State, but really 10-second hot take. Weber State was not screwed in seeding. They had 0 good wins on the season. They had one okay win against UC Davis, and they barely beat a ton of teams that finished under 500, including Hail Mary against an AU. That's not a profile of a team that should be like top 4 seeding wise. But I'm picking Weber to win.
Ooh, but see, then you also got to go, if you compare them to JMU schedule, they had a tougher schedule, and they actually won their conference. But Boatman?
Man, it's Weber State, but it's going to be close. Close. Field goal, 6 points at most.
Yeah, this one being close too. I literally said there's like 2 or 3 teams that Weber does not want to run into. And one of those teams is the Salukis. Their running back, number 15, is an absolute stud. The only issue is the Salukis should not be in the playoffs. They are 100% benefiting from beating North Dakota State. They had 4 losses, 3 losses. They should not be in the playoffs.
Who should have made it then?
He's going to beat them.
Kennesaw?
Cal Poly.
Maybe
Coward Poly.
I don't know. Richmond. Richmond's a top 18 team, probably. I'm going them over 5 teams out of the Missouri Valley and one team with 3 losses and 1 team with 4 in Missouri State. But that's a whole other. Check out FCS Fans Nation. We ranted on that for quite a while the other day. So I'm taking Weber to win. That's it. That's the season. Please go shout out our sponsors. Our final. Oh gosh, we got. Did I scroll down too far? I got basketball news and everything in here. No basketball news. Hammer down is the pride of it. Blah blah blah. Closing the bar. Whatever. We're closing the bar. Hopefully we got K Coffee coming on soon. Hopefully we got Jeremy Clevenger coming on soon for the soccer team. And then let us know guests you guys want. We got one more spare one. But once again, thank you guys for everything. Just like last year, we'll be putting out a poll, what we did good, what we could do better, what you guys want to see, what you enjoyed, because we appreciate the fan feedback. It really helps us drive into what we're going to do over the summer, because while we do take June off and part of July, most of it is business development and making this show as best as possible. So seriously, thank you to all your listeners. We've touched on it here a couple times. This was our most successful year yet by a milestone. I think last year when we started these live streams, we were averaging like maybe 2 people watching live. I think we peaked today at like 14, and we're averaging well over 100 on every video, where last year we get like 40. So just thank you guys for sharing it with people. Keep sharing it with people. We never really ask this stuff, but we will. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. If you're listening in podcast form, rate us. Somebody still has a rating up from 2018 saying our audio sucks. We've gotten a lot better. I challenge you to find that person and have them rewrite that review, damn it. But seriously, thank you to everybody out there. For our Patreons, thank you. We'll be in contact with you because we owe you some swag, some shirts, and a happy hour. And for everyone that hasn't joined, it's patreon.com/Tubs at the club. We have it down in the description. Lots of levels, like we just said. Some get you swag, some get you input. But it's a good way to interact with us on a more interactive level. We also have our private Facebook page for those guys. But that's kind of the closing the bar for the season, because the other ones are probably going to be interviews. But anybody else, final thoughts on the season before we send it to Martin Heemstra's best band in all the land?
Vandal football in a little over 4 months. I'll see you guys then.
Yeah, and I'll say I got to tell all listeners, we get more interaction on the live shows now too, while we're getting more people to view live. One of the fun things about doing the show actually is when we have listeners reach out to us. I've got a handful of people now who I pretty regularly message, sometimes talk to, that I would not have talked to whatsoever if not for the show. So if listeners are out there thinking like, hey, I'm interested in Vandal sports, but like I don't always want to post on all Vandals, and I sometimes just waiting a while is frustrating for the show. Our DMs are open.
Yeah. Yep. We are 132 days from FCS week 0, which means we will be back before you know it, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you guys next time. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals, boys.